Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Haworth, counselor and coach for step parents. Welcome to the July webcast, and today's episode is titled, "The Kids Are All Right, or Are They?" So marriage and family therapist Beth Proudfoot joins me today. I'm very happy about that, to explore the behaviors that are typical of children of divorce and maybe those that need some professional attention. Beth is the founder of the Child and Family Counseling Group in San Jose, California. And in addition to being a child specialist, she is also a parenting coach. She's a mediator. She's a divorce coach. She wears many hats. Beth, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm super happy to be here, Susan. I just so appreciate the work you do. This is a very challenging piece of life, this whole blended family thing. And I'm so glad that people have you to talk to about it.
Thank you, Beth. Well, I'm glad that people have you. So tell me, before we dig in, tell me, what are the services that you provide, both in the clinic, the child clinic, and also at all the hats that you wear at your other services?
My juggling act.
Yeah.
So I started out in 1986 working just exclusively with children, and stopped out after my kids got to a certain age. I had 3 little boys, and it just seemed like too much to be doing therapy for other people's kids and trying to raise my own. So stopped out for a while, and then I got a divorce, and had to go back to work. And that experience as a mom really improved my efficacy, I think, as a therapist. Certainly improved my empathy for parents. And I don't know, I started to practice again, and it just, got really big really fast. And so I decided I had to either tell everyone to stop sending me clients or to expand. So I ended up expanding and starting this clinic. I just think there's a lot of kids that need help, and I wanted to create a place where kids could go. So I have a clinic in San Jose. I have, I think, 6 right now therapists who work for me part-time, doing in-person work with little kids, and some online work with the teenagers, and parent coaching. And so that's kind of like all over the place, because online we see people everywhere. But to me, what's unique about our clinic is we're still seeing kids in person. And I think it's really important and necessary for kids. So, little kids do need therapy. And really, we see kids as young as 5, but we really work hard with parents for kids who are failing preschool as well. And sometimes this is about neurological issues, just kind of how we're wired. Sometimes it's because bad things have happened. And sometimes it's a combination of those things. So
Yeah. I am so delighted that you offer services to people all over, because, as you know, my community of stepmoms, we're far-reaching. We're in every state. We're in the UK. We're everywhere.
There you go. Yeah, and so my work now has kind of evolved. And when I got into my 60s, I decided I was just too old to get down on the floor with the 5-year-olds anymore. And I would let my younger therapists do that. And so I've moved more into working with the grown-ups. And so most of my work is in my messy office in Sonora, California, which is up in the Sierra foothills. So I have a wonderful view of the trees outside my window. And I do collaborative divorce, which is a kind of divorce where you have each person has a mental health professional on their team, along with a lawyer of their own, but we mediate the divorce in the best interests of the children. I'm all about the kids. That's my first thing, is we got to save these kids, and we got to save them at every point along the way of the divorce journey for their family. So I do that coaching within the collaborative process. I also mediate the parenting plan, where we talk a lot about setting up how you're going to make your next family work. I also do a lot of parent coaching, just around kids who have some really challenging little squirrely behaviors, and trying to figure out how to make that better. So.
Yeah. And let's talk about those challenging squirrely behaviors.
Okay.
So what behaviors do you see frequently among the group that we're calling children of divorce? And those are the kids that show up in our step families.
Right.
So right. What are the common behaviors that are challenging?
So I would say that kids' reactions to this whole transition, which can last for years, like 8-10 years, kind of fall into 3 buckets, I think. There's the externalizers. And those are the kids who are just really mad and they're just letting everybody know, right? So they are not obeying, they're being disrespectful, they are sneaking out and doing stuff they shouldn't do. Okay, so those are the externalizers. I'm mad and I'm going to show everybody, right? I'm actually not as worried about the externalizers as the internalizers. So these are the kids who just don't want to talk about it. And they go in their room and they shut the door and they spend their time online, and they are just really jealous of everyone who's on Instagram, who obviously is happier than they are. Even for little kids, this shows up in just being not talkative, right? Just processing. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want any help. And they just kind of can spiral downward, right? Into anxiety, depression, kind of this helpless anger. Right. So I worry about them, but I also, so third bucket is the helpers. And these are the kids who just really have decided that what they need to do is make things better. And I love these kids. They are awesomeness, often really empathetic, right? And just want to get right there in the middle and see if they can make it better. And it's a very frustrating job, because actually kids don't really have much to do with what's happening between their parents. And often parents very responsibly are not going to share with that kid exactly what the problem is, but they're just like determined to solve the problem. I love these kids and I feel great compassion for them. And they can often get into some of the same troubles that the internalizers get into, in terms of being so frustrated that their efforts aren't getting anywhere, right? And sad.
Yeah, depression, anxiety, all of that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've had suicidal 10-year-olds in my office.
This heartbreaking. So we stepmoms, and step parents in general, we can be very objective when it comes to what we see.
This is why I always want to talk to the stepmom. It's like, oh no, it's just the parents that are involved. I'm like, well, could I have like a private session with the stepmom? Because she has the best perspective, actually. She's right there in the middle of it, but she's distant enough to really have an idea about what that dynamic is.
Exactly. So that was going to be my question for you, because we see things, we get alarmed. Biological parents, we have the luxury of being in denial.
Yes.
That works really well to a degree. But, stepmoms see things, maybe the parents say, oh, that's just normal behavior. What should we do? Because, they're not our kids. We are trying to step back. How should we approach the situation if we find a behavior, a depression, anxiety, whatever it is, and we want to bring we think the kid needs professional help? What's your advice?
So this is a conversation with your husband, and it's a tough one. It's really hard. And what happens is, when we're faced with something we don't want to think about, we get defensive, right? And so it's really, the challenge here is to bring this topic up without hitting the defense button, right? Because I think every parent is guilty. I mean, every parent, like, this is like a big feeling, is guilty. And it doesn't matter if you've had a divorce and a remarriage, you're going to feel guilty anyway. There's just so much that you could have done as a parent, you forgot to do, or you didn't have time. So guilt is always there, right? But we want to not touch the guilt button at all, right? And I also think it's always important to ask permission before giving advice.
Oh, me too.
So the first thing is to say something like, I have been observing some things with this child, and I have a thought about it, and I'm wondering, would you be interested in my thoughts about it, right? So you ask for permission first, right? Then when you get it, if you get it, and if you don't get it, it's like, no, I feel like I'm up to my bandwidth is here, and mom and I are in co-parenting counseling, and it's right. So then you have to shut up. Yeah. But if you get permission to ask advice, you can just say, so these are the things that I'm observing, right? And I'm wondering if you are concerned about those things too. Yeah. So all of us has this tendency right now to just go online and diagnose people, right? Have you noticed that?
Totally. Yeah.
And normal in childhood is pretty big range, right? And I think as a stepmom, it just gets into, maybe this is a discussion with the child's mom, right? Maybe they've noticed it too. Yeah. So truthfully, I think every kid could use some play therapy.
Yeah.
Play therapy is awesome fun, and we get to kind of work through some of the things that are going on in our lives. And it's not scary. It's not somebody, scratching their chin and judging you while you talk about your problems, or judging your parents if you're a child as they talk about their problems with their parents, right? Actually, that's not what therapists do with kids. It's really not. We're not there to judge the parents. We're there to help that kid to take one step at a time to figuring out how to deal with things, right? Yeah. And so it's not scary, it's not blaming, it's not pointing any fingers at anybody. It's just giving this child 45 minutes to an hour of peace and quiet with someone who's just listening. Yeah. And playing along and having fun. Yeah. And that's useful for every kid, way useful for kids who are processing big changes, right? And essential for kids who, I would say 8 and up, any kid that you see with anxiety, oh my God, it's so important to get them into therapy, because you do not want them spiraling into depression.
Right.
Really hard to come back from that. It's a lot of what we do is prevention at 8 years old. We're preventing those problems that escalate into danger when kids are teenagers, right? So
yeah, when the stakes are really high in the teenage years. And it's a gift. I mean, that's what I always say. Therapy is a gift. It's a gift. It's a privilege. It's not punitive.
yeah. I once gave a lecture for a whole bunch of therapists, and I asked them how many of them had experienced divorce, either at themselves getting a divorce or their parents got divorced when they were a child. And about 3/4 of the audience raised their hand. And then I asked, of the people who had experienced divorce as a child, for how many of them did it turn out to be, okay, maybe even for the best? 2 raised their hands. And I asked them, what was it? And one woman said, well, it turned out her dad was gay, and her mom and dad ended up being best friends, and a dad's partner also great, awesome. And, and it worked. They always did holidays together, right? And they were just a bigger family, and it worked out great for her. And the other one made everyone cry, because she said, well, my parents got me this really great therapist who really made a difference in my life. And that's why I decided to become a therapist, because it was such a powerful thing for me. Oh, we all just
Yeah.
Anyway, I think
that's lovely.
Yeah, so you can drop it in. Look, this is nothing about you. It's nothing about the divorce situation. It's about this child needing space and time to work things through, right? Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you're a bad parent. Doesn't mean they're a bad kid. It only means that this child needs some space and time, right? And there's only so much that parents can do. And beyond that, someone outside, someone who's not involved all the time, who's just there to listen and doesn't have an agenda, it's so valuable for kids. Sometimes moms and dads have different versions of reality. And these are the kids who have the most problem. problems. It's mom has this version of reality, dad has this version of reality. What's true? I don't know.
I love what you said about the kids just need space and time and an outside someone objective. Yeah. And trained. Yeah. That's so lovely. I want to pivot a bit and just talk about those annoying behaviors that, that stepmoms have to deal with.
Yes, I hear you. Totally hear you. Yeah, so let's talk about those behaviors. So let's do an underlying thing about what's happening with kids who are going through divorce, and I'll try to do it across age groups. So I don't know if you remember the movie Inside Out. Great movie. I recommend it to everyone. It's awesome. It's a Disney Pixar movie, and it goes inside a child's brain, right? And it has kind of metaphors for what's happening inside a child's brain, which I just love this show. Anyway, one of the things that it shows is the island of identity. And this is an island that starts to get populated very early in a child's life. Right? And it starts this island of who am I? Right? And it starts with, I am the child of mommy. Really? That's it. Right? So mommy is the first thing in this island. And it gets, and then, boy, and there's daddy. And there's my blankie. And there's my crib. Right? And there's my babysitter. And there's grandma. And there's our house. Right? So, and as kids get bigger, this island gets populated with more and more things, right? My soccer team and my best friend, and how I'm really good at math, and how I can jump farther than Fred, right? All of those things get on this island of identity. So what happens in divorce is the island gets a great big bomb in the middle and gets destroyed. So because those initial first things, mommy, daddy, blankie, bedroom, house, it just gets blown up. These were kids' anchors, by the way. This is, I can count on this to always stay the same. I can count on mommy to always stay the same. I can count on daddy, always stay the same. I can count on my blankie and my crib. Okay. So, okay, this gets blown up. So nothing stays the same. Nothing's an anchor. I am wandering around in a world in which every freaking thing can change at any moment. There is no anchor. For little kids, this is particularly scary, right? So every transition from I'm here to I'm going to be there, and that's I'm playing with my Legos, and now it's time for dinner, right? And that's also I'm been at dad's house and I'm going to mom's house now. Right? So every single freaking transition is, holy shit, I just had one little thing that was going to stay the same for 1 minute. And now you're telling me it's not going to stay the same. Great big tangent.
Yeah.
So what we see with kids, and this can last for years, by the way, and it's the challenge, the transitions are super challenging, and it's every transition. It's not just between households, right? As kids get bigger, the island got populated with so many other things that they can still cling to. That best friend, right? Their soccer team, right? The best teacher that they ever had who they can sit in the class after school, right? So they've got other things to anchor them, right? But there are still a lot of older kids who have trouble with transitions as well, right? It's really challenging.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And then there's the loyalty challenges, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that we see this a lot in blended families, this big loyalty challenges. Okay, so let's talk about this from a developmental point of view.
Yes.
So kids when they're 4 to 6 are learning about the nature of love. So if you have a divorce when kids are 4 to 6, you're going to have a much bigger problem than at any other time in the kids' lives. What kids are figuring out, they know about me and mommy, right? That attachment love, right? Me and mommy, me and daddy, that attachment love, they know about that. And they get to 4 to 6 and like, wow, there's a different kind of love. And that's that romantic love. Well, I want me a piece of that. right? So, what's that all about? And for little boys, it's pretty straightforward. And we all know about the Oedipus complex, well, what if I killed my daddy? And then I could marry my mommy, right? And then I could have that romantic love in addition to the attachment love. But you know what? They know that that's not possible, and they kind of work it through, except if there's a divorce, right? Right in the middle of that time, it's really confusing, right? So mommy and daddy divorced. Uh-oh, I got my biggest wish. Now, am I supposed to be mommy's husband? Well, that's pretty scary. I didn't really want that. It was kind of a wish of mine, but I didn't really want it, right? And for little girls, it's there too. I didn't experience a divorce as a child, but my mother died, and I had this tremendous feeling of, holy shit, I have to take care of my dad now.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh no. So this is one cool thing about step families. I mean, I certainly welcomed my stepmom with open, oh my God, I'm gonna take care of my dad.
I don't want it. You take it. Right.
Good job. You. But that's not true for every kid, right? But that can be part of it, is thank goodness I don't have to be the caregiver for my parent, right? So that part's great, awesomeness. But then you get into the, wait a minute, I'm afloat without mommy. I have, mommy's a big part of my identity, right? And I have to spend a week at a time without mommy, right? And now you're coming in trying to be like the substitute mommy. I'm sorry, the mommies can't be substituted for, right? And plus mommy hates you. And I know, because I heard her talking to grandma, right? Then we get into some serious problems, right?
Yeah.
Because we have these just terrible, torn apart. And it's worse if stepmom is awesome. Hard to hate. She's so great. She
Yeah.
plays with me. She makes me my favorite meals. She's all the time going on adventures. Daddy loves her, right? Shit, I have to be strong. And be loyal to mom, right? This is horrific for kids. It's so hard for them. So
Beth, I see this. I know you're talking about little kids, but I see the loyalty bonds and binds in teenagers.
yeah.
And I see them in adult children.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It may be worse in adult children, because often I think mothers feel better about confiding in their adult children as they're going through their divorce, right? And this polarizes the kids, right? And really it's a like, do I have to not love my dad now, right? Because mom has confided to me what an asshole my dad has been during the divorce, right? And holy shoot, there's a lot of things going on in divorces that they can get pretty ugly. And when you're right in the middle of it and experiencing all of that, and there's someone there, the helper kid, who's like, oh, mom, tell me what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's natural. It happens all the time. It's unfortunate that we get
and the impact it has on stepmoms, of course, is that we are shut out. We keep trying harder and harder, and it gets worse. We feel like outsiders in our own home. And so what advice, if any, do you have for stepmoms going through this dilemma of feeling like a stranger in a strange land?
My advice for every adult who wants to have a relationship with a child, is to play. Be playful. Be playful. So you got a kid who's 12 and loves Legos and hates you. So you get a great Lego set, and they come in packages. So there's package number 1, package number 2, package number 3, and you take out package number, you get it, you take out package number 1, it's on a card table in the living room, and you sort all the pieces in package number 1. Do you know how to do that with Legos? You get little thingies, sort them all out. And there's a teddy bear there with a crayon, and there's a note from the teddy bear. I just can't figure out step number 1. Can you help? right? And then stepmom says nothing about this ever, right? Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Right? Figure out ways to be playful, right?
I love that, Beth. I mean, I think I'm thinking about for teenagers too. It's just getting real with them.
Yeah, yeah. I've been trying to figure out Roblox and I just can't figure it out. Have you ever played Roblox? This is what you do. You get into Roblox and try to figure it out. It's really complex. And my kids figure it out right away. I'm like, I can't begin with Roblox. Anyway, you just meet them where they are. What do they like? Right?
Yeah.
And be playful. Just be playful with it. Just a very light touch, right?
A playful attitude is really important, even with adult children. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And always be interested in them, what's happening with them. Yeah, I became a stepmom to adult children, and I walk very lightly with those adult children. And I'm just very interested in them, right? Very empathetic with them, really want to ask them questions about what's going on in their lives, right? And say nothing about me. It's not about me. It's not about me, right?
That brings me to the next question I have for you about another phenomenon, boundary ambiguity. We're always, we stepmoms are always talking about boundaries. But when it comes to the kids who show up in our house, sometimes we feel like we're under surveillance, like they're reporting back everything that goes on in our house, our plans, our purchases, vacations, and we get paranoid with good reason. So do you have any advice for dealing with this kind of phenomenon that happens quite frequently?
So I actually think it's okay to call it out. Those kids who are sent into your home as a spy feel terrible about it. It is no fun to be the spy. It is absolutely no fun. Well, so this is not universal advice, but I think if you can, as you are beginning to form a relationship with this kid, you might sit them down and talk about how it's really important to their mom to know that they're being well taken care of here, and that they're having a good time, and that they're okay, right? So you are totally okay with them going back to their mom and letting them know that you've been taken care of, and that you've had fun, and the things that have happened. Yeah. And that if there's something that happens, like people have an argument, right? Or if you go on an adventure and it kind of fizzles, it wasn't that good, right? That they might dread having to take that home to mom, right? So it's okay to talk about it. And maybe this is a conversation that dad has, not stepmom. It's okay to talk about it, and let's figure out what you could tell mom that would be telling her the truth, right? But that wouldn't make her worry.
Yeah. The other, one of the things that I suggest that I know that worked for me too is just, be careful about what you share.
Yeah.
I mean, some things you can share in your bedroom with your partner, and it doesn't have to be at the dinner table.
That's right.
Just knowing that this is a phenomenon, it doesn't have to do with you. It's just a developmental thing.
Well, it's a dynamic. So there's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place in order to get that spy child going. And it sucks, and it really sucks for the kid. It's really bad for that kid. They're supposed to be doing their homework and having fun with their friends. They are not supposed to be spying on their stepmom. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if daddy had this conversation with them and said, I know your mom is worried, right? Your mom loves you so much. Yeah, I know she's worried. And I'm doing my very best to reassure her that you're okay, right? And I know you are doing your best to reassure her that you're okay, right? But that's
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I know that's a tough conversation for dads to have.
it is. I think when we get into this situation, kids need permission from dad that it's okay for them to spy. Actually, totally okay. This is where their loyalty thing gets wonky donkey, right? But when dad says, no, it's totally okay. Tell your mom anything that happens in this house. I'm totally fine with it. If you want to talk about it before you go so we can figure out the best way to say that, I'm happy. Let's have a conversation about that, right? It is the big thing to do.
Yeah.
The small thing to do is say, don't you spy on me.
Yeah.
Which just makes it worse.
Of course. And secrets are so stressful for any of us. So you can imagine the stress that the child feels.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I really think if you can think of yourself as a stepmom as someone who can be a playmate, right? Maybe a mentor.
Yes.
Just a sounding board, right?
Absolutely.
What an important, valuable role. What a really important role.
Right. One of the things I work with stepmoms on is just not getting into, I know you've heard me say this too, Beth, getting into the bio mom lane. That stay in your lane as a mentor, as a trusted person, adult, and who doesn't want that? Sign me up for one of those.
There you go. I was thinking about this. So my grandkids have a wonderful nanny. Just wonderful. They love her. So she comes to the door, they're just like running to her and want to have a big hug. And she plays with them and she talks with them. She sits with them, but she doesn't make the decisions about where they're going to go to preschool.
Yeah.
She doesn't decide what to do when, there's a problem with a neighbor kid, right? That's not her lane.
Yeah. So there's also, another idea that or a way that we talk to our stepmom clients, those of us who are in the support role. Yes, we talk about disengagement a lot. And I think it's really important for stepmoms' mental health and for their relationship with their partner, which should be the primary relationship. But it can morph into something more extreme. It can morph into just a distance that we don't want to have. And especially when it comes to mental health challenges that we observe. So what is that fine line between disengagement and estrangement?
Yeah. It's really tough. It's a dance in every family. It really is.
Yeah.
It's just really challenging. Bio moms have trouble with personality mismatches with their own babies, right? Stepmoms also, right? That sometimes there's just a personality, that's just like, there's not anywhere where we can meet, right? And so we're going to be a little distant and polite. Right? And that's okay. You don't have a cold distance. You want to have a warm distance. But I would say that is such a dance. I'm glad people have, because it's just really challenging to just get yourself in the right place, right? Where you can be, where there's a home that's a home for everyone who lives there, and including the people who come in and out, right? It's a home, right? That feels safe. So I think it is part of the stepmom's role. It's not fair, but it's there. That's what we as stepmoms can do, is to make the home safe.
Yeah. And we need to acknowledge, I tell people, don't gaslight yourself. This is hard,
Yes.
living with other people's kids. Oh my God. In the best of circumstances, it's a challenge. So, I always hear my stepmom clients saying, oh, I should be thankful. Well, yes, but because I have it so much better than, well, yes, but that doesn't minimize what you're going through. And so don't gaslight yourself.
No, I can't agree with you more. And I hope that all stepmoms know that this is the hardest, most thankless job in the world. It really is. There's just nothing harder. We got cultural biases coming in. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that mean that stepmoms are swimming upstream every single day, right? And there are also wonderful situations, right? There are also just, I like my stepmom was just a wonderful mentor for me. And I cared for her until she died.
Wow, how
And,
lovely.
and I would wish that for everybody, that they could have that kind of relationship. And I know for sure I had a better relationship with her than her own kids did with her.
There you go.
It was complicated. With me, she was a mentor and friend, and a dearly loved mentor and friend. So there you go.
Lucky you, lucky her. And every step family is different. So, again, we need not compare ourselves with anyone else, because some people, have it very tough and some people have it less tough. But so is there anything that I should have asked you that I neglected to ask you that stepmoms in particular might benefit from knowing about this children of divorce?
Sure. Let's talk about object constancy.
Oh, yes.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so we are among the only mammals who know when something is out of sight, it's still there. Right? But we don't really know that from birth. We know that we are hardwired to learn it. Okay, so from the early age, we do this with babies. I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm really still there. Right? Oh no, I'm really still there. And little babies are delighted with this, right? So, but actually, children do not fully understand that objects are constant until they're in their mid-teens. So we graduate from peekaboo to hide and seek, to hide the object, to hide and seek in the dark, in the neighborhood, right? And people jump out and say, boo, right? and it's a progression of games that we play to help us understand the nature of reality. Reality being that objects there is no magic, right? So it's bigger than objects don't disappear. There is no magic in the world. There are physical laws in the world. Yeah. So any big change, and for kids, I'm really talking about death of a parent, divorce, a move to another country, big things that happen, seriously challenges this whole system, right? So we had this nice little dance that we're going to do. We're going to play with this idea about the nature of reality, and it's going to last throughout our childhoods, right? Boom, something blows up in the middle of it. And every single kid goes back to peekaboo, right? So, and it's diagnostic, actually. I do this in my playroom all the time. Where are you in your object constancy? So, and I'm talking about games that stepmoms can play, all right? So some kids, even this is scary. Are you still there? Some kids, when you play hide and seek, they'll allow you to get under a blanket with your feet still showing, but that is as hidden as you can get, because they're terrified if you were in the closet, you might have disappeared, because there is magic and you could just disappear, right? So I would really suggest, these are kids have had some trauma in their life. Let's figure out where they are in the scale between peekaboo and hide and seek in the dark, right? Can you play hide the object? So I have this pen. I'm going to hide it somewhere in this room and you have to find it. I'm going to tell you hot and cold, right? Close your eyes for 10 seconds and I'm going to hide it. Okay. Oh, you're cold. Oh, you're getting warmer, right? Can they tolerate that? Do they always want to be the one who hides it because they can't stand it when you hide it because it might have disappeared, right? Yeah. Okay, got it. And then the next step is hide and seek, right? Can they stand you hiding your body? Can they stand you hiding for a long time? Do they want to always be the one who hides, right? This is a measure of anxiety because you can see it right there, right? If they can't stand it to play a real hide and seek where they have to keep searching until they find you and you're hidden in a pretty hard spot, right? And they're 11, then we start to worry about them because their object constancy is way off. They believe in magic, which means anybody could disappear at any time. Yeah, which is super scary place to be in, right? Another thing about this, are they 7 and they still believe in Santa Claus? I mean, really believe in Santa Claus. Yeah. They believe in magic. And the antidote to that is the hardwired step-by-step games that we play around object constancy. And stepmoms can be great with that. And the thing is that kids want to play them over and over and over again. You get a kid who wants to play hide the object, oh my God.
Yeah.
You could play that all afternoon. They are hardwired to love that game, right?
And what about teenagers?
Oh yeah. Oh, let's play it. Let's just play hide and seek, right? Or you set up the talking teddy bear, the teddy bear with the notes. They have to search for it when they get home. They know it's there. It's always there. Every time they come to dad's house, it's somewhere. Where the heck is it, right? You can play lots of different kinds of hide and seek. Hide and seek of objects, hide and seek of people, and it's a real formal game, right? Lots of different variations to this, right? That are fun for kids. And you can see where they are, right? You can see where they are in terms of their level. So to me, anxiety and belief in magic in children are intimately connected. If you believe in magic, you're going to be very worried about what could happen in the world. You're just going to be super worried about it. And there's no way to get to, oh, there is no magic, except to play the games one at a time, right? Over and over and over again until you come to truly understand them, right? So play hide and seek. It's fun.
I might go out right now and play.
Okay.
This has been wonderful, Beth. And I know that the people listening are going to have more questions for you, maybe wanting to contact you for a consultation or whatever. What is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They can go to my website or my clinic website. Then they can read all about the clinic if they want to. And the clinic website is childfamilygroup.com, childfamilygroup.com. My website is just bethproudfoot.com. And that has more information about my services on that Beth Proudfoot site. So yeah. And shoot, use the contact form, shoot me an email and we can go from there.
Great. Well, I will also include your information to the people who are on my mailing list so that they can contact you with more questions. I thank you so much. You are a wealth of information and so fun.
Oh, thank you.
We should probably play hide and seek together sometime.
Let's do it. I love it. And every time I have a party, I put out games and you would be amazed at how much fun that is. At how the shy people play chess. Let's all be more playful in our lives.
I love that message, and it's a great message to end with. So again, Beth Proudfoot, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Take good care.